Welcome to Thermomix. I'm Kyra and I'm about to make some meatballs in tomato sauce in my amazing TM6 Thermomix. So I'm just going to show you how I'm going to do it. Now I also want to let you know in advance that I'm actually making some tweaks to this recipe as I go along. So you don't actually have to follow this recipe to the T. You can change it with the things that you like or that you want to use. So we're just going to press start cooking. Now this is a recipe on their basic cookbook and it's in what was I going to say, basic cookbook, and I'm just going to press start cooking and it's asking me to pop a bowl on the lid like so. So I'm just going to do that to show you, but I actually, the recipe, what we're doing at the moment is weighing in some bread to make to soak in milk as part of the recipe, but I don't have any bread at the moment. We're not huge on bread. And so I'm going to use some rolled oats because I have rolled oats in the cupboard. You could use breadcrumbs if you had them, that kind of thing, because that's what it's going to act as. But I'm going to use some rolled oats today. So I've popped my lid on. Now what I'm going to do is open up my bag of rolled oats if I can. And pop in the 40 grams. So you'll see our scales will come up on the screen and we're just going to weigh in our 40 grams of rolled oats. A little bit over, it's not really going to hurt it, and we will add them to the recipe a little bit later on. So now it's saying to pour in our milk, would have been into that bowl, and then set that aside to soak if it was bread. Okay, so now it's saying 6 to 12 sprigs of flat leaf parsley, the leaves only. So if you could only get curly parsley, if that's all you have in your garden, then fine, that's cool. I'm actually going to use up some herbs that I've got in my garden. So I've got some parsley and some oregano, and I love to use what I have on hand rather than just going with the recipe. Now, if for some reason you didn't have fresh herbs growing in your garden, you could use dry herbs. I have done that plenty of times. I'm just going to add in a little bit of oregano. This is actually to go into the actual, what we're doing right now is making the meatballs. A little bit of oregano, and I'm going to pop in a few basil leaves instead of all of it being just parsley. Press next, and we're going to throw in a garlic clove. So I've peeled that, ready to go. And now we're going to pop on our lid with our measuring cup. Press next, and we're going to, it's on 5 seconds, and we're going to turn it around to speed 7 and chop all that up. Beautiful. Let's have a look. Just going to take the lid off and show you all of our beautiful garlic and herbs all chopped up in the bowl. Now you wouldn't be able to do that with a knife that quickly. Now it's asking me to scrape down the sides. Just going to use my spatula and give that a bit of a push down the sides, just so it's all at the base of our Thermomix, and press next. Now it's asking for 400 grams of our beef mince. So I'm just going to use up again what I've got in the fridge, which is 500 grams. Not an issue. And we're going to pop in a couple of eggs to bring them together. So I've cracked them already. And a little bit of salt. So you could actually measure it. It says half a teaspoon. I'm just going to do a little couple of pinches. Next, a little bit of black pepper. Beautiful. Press next. It says to pop in the soaked bread, so that's why we're going to pop in these oats, or you could use breadcrumbs, whatever you've got, or if you're following the recipe to a T, you could pop in the soaked bread. Just wring out all of the milk out of the bread. We're going to pop the lid on, press next, and top it around to speed 5. Beautiful. Now it's telling you transfer it to another bowl, but I prefer not to because, as you can see, all of that's all been brought together except for the little bit around the side. So I'm just going to give that a bit of a scrape just to incorporate those little few bits that haven't quite gone there. And now, from here, it says to clean and dry the bowl. Well, I'm not going to worry about that just at the moment. I'm going to leave that to the side for a second because what we're going to do now is form the meatballs and pop them in the varoma where they're going to steam. So I'm just going to grab my varoma. This is our varoma and our varoma tray. And it's asking us to lightly grease our varoma dish and our varoma tray. So what I'm going to do is pop a little bit of olive oil into my hands, rub it in, and then use my hands to grease the actual varoma tray and the varoma base, just like so. All right, and then you've got some oil on your hands for when we actually are now making the balls. So there's a little video that comes up on the screen. If you're not sure how to do it, it will show you. But what I'm going to do now is get some of the mince and roll it into balls like so. And I'm going to pop them into my varoma, evenly spaced. So roughly the same size. Beautiful. Pop them in there like so. You could actually use our ice cream scoop or something like that if you wanted to make sure that you're measuring them out the same, exactly the same. I tend to just roughly go off my eyes and just like so. And we'll keep going just till the rest is done. Now, I have to be honest with you. Sometimes I'll do a double batch of these. And all I will do is go back and make the mince meatballs again. And then that way I can do a double batch. And I would freeze them uncooked in the freezer. And then bring them out on the morning of the day that I actually want to use them. And then I can skip all of this. So it just makes it easier to make on a really busy day, because there's some days where you come home and you know you want to skip through all of this prep section and just literally steam the meatballs over your tomato sauce. So and that's how I often will do it. Or you might have a big crowd to feed and you might want to do a double batch, which you can totally do. You're just going to make sure that on the bottom of your tray, bottom of your varoma, you've got enough space in between to allow that steam from the tomato sauce to actually come up and cook those meatballs off. So we'll keep going with this. Not much more to go. Beautiful. Now you could serve these just on their own, or I tend to do it with some pasta for my boys. You could cook that in the varoma while it's while these are steaming off, and I will link you to a video on how to do that as well. So I've just got one little bit left. These are quite big meatballs. You could make them smaller if you wanted to. Now I'll just give my hands a quick wash. Get off that excess meat. Hit the cross to get rid of that video. Press next. Now it's asking for us to set our varoma aside, and I don't really care that my bowl is actually not clean because we're going to cook all this off. So I've got one garlic clove, and it's asked for 50 to 80 grams of onion. So you just basically have to cut your onion in half And the rule of thumb is that anything that goes in your Thermomix must be able to fit through here. So that's your rule of thumb. Now I'm going to throw in a couple of carrots as well. So we're actually making the sauce now. And so we're now going to cook off those carrots and onions. And I'm just going to add in some olive oil. Press next. Pop on my lid. Next, I'm going to chop all that up. 5 seconds on speed 5, and then press next. Keep our measuring cup in, and now we're actually going to cook that off for 3 minutes on speed 1. Now's the time I can pop all this away. Now I'm going to add the rest of these herbs, so I'll just get them ready to pop in the sauce. I just really like to have a little bit of basil, a little bit of oregano out of the garden in the sauce. I also want to share with you a little tip about buying tin tomatoes. So when you're buying your tin tomatoes, I learned when we were in Italy with Thermomix that if you buy the already crushed or diced tomatoes, they're actually made from the tomatoes that have not been so great. So if you buy whole tomatoes, you can actually just do what I do, is buy whole tomatoes, and you know that they're actually all good, the tomatoes, the quality. And then I just pop my knife in and I just cut it up like so in the tin. And that's enough for most recipes that I actually use with my Thermomix. So yeah, just a tip. They're usually cheaper as well. So, but you know you're getting the best product because they're actually having to put in a whole tomato. You could buy the ones also that have got the added herbs and basil and things like that. If that's what you like, that's fine as well. I just tend to buy just the whole tomatoes. Yeah, so that's just a little tip about that. Awesome. So now what we're going to do is, I'll show you what that looks like. Scoop this scrape down. All the onion and the carrot is all chopped off, and the onion, garlic and carrot is all chopped up in there and cooked off. And now we're going to pop in our 2 tins of tomatoes, or you can buy the 800 gram tins. I'm just going to pop in now 2 400 gram tins. It's just convenient. Press next. And now we're going to put in, instead of salt, I'm going to add about a tablespoon, roughly, of our vegetable stock that we make with our Thermomix. That way it just gives it extra flavour, and also the salt content is there as well. A little bit of extra hidden vegetables for our kiddies, for those that don't like to eat extra veggies. And now what I'm going to do is pop in some of these herbs. I'm just going to throw in some leaves of basil. You could actually chop them up and cook them off with the onion. I'm going to throw in some oregano, fresh oregano. I've got heaps. If you live locally and want some oregano, you're welcome to come and grab some. Yeah, so I'm going to pop in some more. I just love fresh herbs. So, and we've got some basil here as well. Sorry, some parsley, just throw that in, and that will cook off nicely. So we're going to pop on our lid now, and then pop on the Verona. So we could put it on like so, or like that way, whichever way suits. We'll pop it on like that for today. Pop our lid on and press next. Whoops. So we're now going to cook that off for 20 minutes on Verona temperature. So Verona is a word that comes from vapor and steam. So it's the Thermomix intuitively works out what you've got in the bowl and how hot to actually make it. So if it's just water, it's going to boil at 100 degrees. It can't go any hotter than that. But with Verona temperature, it can go up to our highest temps if that's what it requires. So if it's 120 or 115, it can do that, but intuitively works it out. So it's 20 minutes on Verona on speed 1, and off it goes.